So we got a box here from JT over at DRP. It's got some more goodies we got to test. Well, that's a spare intake gasket that we're gonna need. Oh, more gaskets. Let's see here. Got some paperwork. We've got some sweet Japanese newspaper. More packing. An Allen screw duct tape to a bag. Perfect. Alright, let me set this down real quick. Alright, so I struggled off camera, but this is what's next for the Roadster. That's right. So as you guys know, we're running the 123 distributor. This is actually JT's new option for those who do not have a 123. So we're going to get this puppy installed, wired up, and test it, and hope for the best here. Oops. So, looks pretty normal like any other Roadster R16 distributor. As a matter of fact, I have the one that... a spare one that I have, and I mean, it looks roughly the same, right? Shaft and everything. So, can't wait to test that out. We're going to get that put in and wired up. So we've got this sweet Allen thing. We got some gaskets. We got the distributor itself. And this hopefully is my water pump. So if you guys remember a couple videos ago, I found out that my water pump was leaking. So let me put this down and open this up. Alright, it is in fact my water pump. So JT found out that I gave him my engine serial number, and he was able to determine just by my serial number alone that I had an early engine in a late car. So that's really cool because the water pumps are apparently different. So they like hodgepodge my car together, and as per usual, you know, these old Datsun cars is what you expect. A lot of people do what they need to do to keep the cars on the road. Anyways, so apparently my car has a early motor with the early water pump, but then they switched over to the late model style fan and fan clutch, and that's why nothing ever lined up. When I was doing my Denso one-wire alternator swap, I couldn't figure out why I could never get the belt lined up, and so here we go. This will have to wait for a different day, but I got it, so yay for that. But yeah, so the main thing is that we got this sweet distributor. We're going to get this set up and then get it going. So just like before in one of our earlier videos with the 123 install, what we're going to do is we're basically going to move the wires over to the cap. And what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that the rotor is facing the correct position of where the 123 is at. So we're going to orientate everything and then swap everything over. And then we'll have to do some more wiring mods, which which we knew already, and then we'll get this swapped over and wired up. So I've got the cap moved over. If you look at the rotor orientation, it's about the same. It's probably going to be a little bit off, but still close enough. So these distributors are slotted, as you can see. So even if we get it close enough, it's only going to go in one way. One thing I do want to mention is that it looks like it has a different trigger wheel. It's unfortunately, this looks like about the same one that we had in the Z31 in our other videos, and we had some problems with those on that car on the Fuel Tech. So this is designed by DIY, so it should work pretty good since we're using their ECU, but we may have a problem with this if we swap to a different ECU down the line. So but yeah, we're gonna pop this sucker on and then get it wired up. Okay, so since we're going away from coil negative, so what that means is because we were using the 123 before, so we were doing what's coil negative, meaning that the megasquirt's only controlling fuel. So what we've got to do is we've got to actually make some changes to the jumpers internally on the megasquirt. So as you can see, I've got it taken apart and the MS3X is just kind of chilling over here. So most notably is this one right here, which is XG1 to XG2. We're going to remove this and it's kind of a pain to do, but we're going to remove it. And now that it's removed, we're just going to set the jumper over one pin. Okay, so now as you can see, XG1 and XG2, it's no longer jumpered, and then this is just hanging there so we don't lose it. Alright, so I couldn't get a good shot of this, it was kind of hard, but so here's JP1, that's on the bottom right. We've got to switch that to, it's currently on 2 to 3, and then we're going to go to 1 to 2. And remember guys, this really isn't required for you if you're buying the kit from us, or you've purchased the kit and you're switching back between the two. So if you started off as a fuel setup and then you went to what we're doing now, this is going to happen. So from here, you're going to take, here's J1, you can see we're going to take it from 1 to 2, and then we're going to jump it to 3 to 4. Now all this stuff is actually in the instructions for the hardware on the MS3, but just wanted to do it. So you want to verify this. So again, if you were doing a fuel only setup, your XG1 to XG2 jumper would be hooked up. Then on J1 you'd have 1 and 2 instead of 3 and 4, and then on JP1 down here you'd have 2 and 3 instead of 1 and 2. So this is set up for our new distributor now, and then I can go ahead and put the case back on and then plug it all back up. So I did this off camera real quick. Basically we're going to do what's called a pull-up resistor. Not to sound like a broken record, you're not going to have to do this if you buy the complete kit from us, but I just wanted to document it for my sake and for anyone else down the line who needs to do troubleshooting. So basically what we're doing is we're going to do a pull-up, and what that does is basically we're going to cut this sucker in half. One side will go to power and the other side will go to the signal to bring the signal up. But yeah, so that's basically how that's going to work. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this in real quick, throw a piece of heat shrink on it just to protect it, and then we'll start moving forward. We got the distributor in, and in our typical fashion, we've got everything poorly wired up. So if you guys remember, this is the 5-volt spare wire that we have that we ran from here underneath the intake manifold. And then we have our little test connectors here. This is the pull-up, and then the resistor that I soldered earlier. I was supposed to heat shrink it, but we actually ran out of heat shrink, so I just went ahead and electric taped it. The coil is not hooked up to the megasquirt yet. There's a few reasons why. Firstly, we're just trying to get this thing to read signal like it's supposed to. So laptop is currently on the charger. We're gonna let it charge. Then what we'll do is we'll disable the injectors just simply by unplugging them, and then we'll crank it over with the new settings in, and hopefully we get RPM. So the laptop is still charging, so I went ahead and made the changes needed in the software. So before this was fuel only, and we've switched to the tooth wheel. We've made some changes here, single wheel on the cam, and then 24 tooth, all that. So that's all set up. So this is the same as like the KA. This may have to change though, because the distributor's not ran off the cam, it's actually ran off the crank. So you may just put it at crank wheel. So this right here is the important one. So we don't have the coil hooked up yet, we don't plan to hook it up yet, but basically this is a 2-man team job right here. Basically what will happen is between going high and going low, you'll key it on and have someone touch the coil. If the coil gets hot, immediately turn it off and then switch it over to the other one. So we're gonna leave it here at going high, and then like I said, that's actually why we're not testing that today, because I'm the only person here and I don't want to smoke a $60 coil. Granted, it's not a lot of money, but still it's 60 bucks, right? So basically what we're gonna do is once the laptop is charged up decently enough, I'll plug in, make these changes, and then we will see if it's crank or cam wheel. So we've got the timing is going to be locked to 10 degrees, and then we'll try that. And if we can get RPM signal out of it, we'll start hooking everything else up. So originally we had it on cam wheel, or crank wheel, excuse me. Crank wheel was definitely wrong. We couldn't get any RPM out of it. Switched it over to cam wheel, and So we have some RPM out of it. As you can see, it was kind of dropping, but you can also hear that the battery is a little bit on the weak side. So there's a good chance that that may be it. So what I'm going to do here is we're just going to check to see if we have any sync errors, and then we'll check it out again. So the code that we have here is the lost sync reason 2. That basically says that the missing tooth is in the wrong spot, which also would explain why the RPM gauge would drop off like that. So what we're going to do though is, before we start trying to dig any further, first things first is we have to get the battery up to par. With the way that it's cranking, it could actually just be dropping out when the compression stroke hits, and since it's not firing off. So that could be the issue there. No point to chase our tail if that's, if that's not the problem. However, if this still occurs, there's a few reasons that it could be. It could actually be something as simple as the trigger wheel is put on backwards. So we did have that same problem with that Z31. I'll drop the link below in the description if you guys want to check that out. So these trigger wheels only go on, they're only supposed to go on a specific way. If you have them upside down, it can cause a lot of weird issues. So like I said, first things first, before we go any further, we've got to charge the battery. We're going to go ahead and charge that battery. We'll check it out tomorrow, and then we'll see what we get.